So today I've been painting out in my courtyard garden, capturing spring. Spring is here, and what better way to enjoy it than capture these beauties on canvas. So the colours that I'm using today are white, alizarin crimson, cadmium scarlet, cadmium yellow, phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, phthalo green, your basic warm and cool colours, and as usual I am using the wonderful A2 paints made by Chroma here in Australia. And to keep things simple, I'm going to just use a palette knife and just a number 4 round brush, but it could be a size 2 if you want. Just a simple size 10 flat brush, and then I've got another little sneaky round brush in here like a size 2. Now I've said before that round brushes do vary in the brands as far as size goes, and we've got the studio cat wandering around too. You want to join in too, Priscilla, hey? So I've also got my Atelier Gel Gloss Medium, which I will use to create this beautiful impasto effect of these flowers. So let's go. So today I thought I would capture some of these beautiful, I think they're called Lavender Stocks on canvas. Look at this. Aren't they just divine? I love my garden, and I've got artist poppies about to come into flower too. There's a bulb just there, have a look at that one. Very soon I'm going to have poppies all along there as well. I love my pansies. So obviously I like colour. Anyway, so today I thought I would do something really simple that is easy to do, because in my experience of teaching art classes for 27 years, I have noticed that some of my students may have lost some dexterity with their hands, and some people may have a few eye problems or, you know, a little bit of a shaky hand, and that shouldn't stop you from creating. So I'm going to make this really simple today, and you're going to be able to capture the beauty of spring on the canvas. How does that sound? Alright, so I've already got out some colours here. I've got out my ultramarine blue, which is my warm blue, my skin tone, my cadmium yellow, phthalo green, which is a cool green, and phthalo blue, which is a cool blue, and some white. Now, it occurred to me that not everybody would have the skin tone, so I'm going to show you how to create your own skin tone. Now, skin tone base is just a great mixing colour, which I use in every painting that I do basically. And this is also made by Chroma. This is the medium bodied student range, which skin tone comes in. It actually doesn't come in the A2 range, go figure. So to create your own skin tone, you could use a little bit of yellow, a tiny bit of cadmium scarlet, and then we add white. So that's a pale version, which is good to use as well. And of course, if I wanted to have a darker version, I just add a little bit more cadmium scarlet and a little bit more of the yellow. And we will compare the pair in a moment. So this is my original skin tone here, and you can see that all I have to do to get to that, and I'll just pop some on here to show you. There's my original skin tone, right? I'll get a palette knife that's just got white on it. So now I'm just going to add a little bit more of the cadmium scarlet and the yellow into it. Now, it's better to do it like this. It's better to do slowly when you're mixing colours, just adding bits at a time until you get the desired colour. So I'm almost there. I'm just going to grab some white and put it in there. So notice how I'm grabbing bits of colour from the original colours like that. I'm not mixing them all in together. It's so important that when you're mixing a colour that you still keep your original colours there, because you can see, look, there I am close to it. Just needs a tiny bit more yellow into it. But that way I've still got my options to continue to grab some of these other colours, and if I want to, I can use them again without them all being mixed in together. And I'm not wasting a whole heap of paint by experimenting by going all in together, and then I've wasted all that paint. So just a little tip when you're mixing paint, just little bits at a time, easy does it. All right, so now there's my skin tone. See, it's basically the same as the other one. Now that I've created this colour, I'm actually going to use it as a bit of a background because I don't want to paint lots of, as you can see here, I've got other plants behind my pansies and behind these beautiful flowers that I'm painting, and they're all green, right? I want these guys to be the star of the show today, so I'm going to just block out that background, and using this skin tone that I've just made, obviously, or you can use it straight from a tube, I'm just grabbing some of that with that lighter colour that I made up and some white. So see there? Another reason why you want to leave the original colours there on your palette. So I've just got a big scoop of paint and I'm going across like that just to get in a background. And see how cool that is, because I'm mixing the paint on the canvas. And this, I'm dragging the palette knife, or a painting knife is the official name of this. I'm dragging it across at about 20-30 degrees like that, see? If I slow that movement down. And see how I'm getting this really nice artistic background, because we're artists, right? So I'll just grab a little bit more and go across. Now I don't want to keep mixing in and mixing in and mixing in and dragging my palette knife over and smoothing all of that out, because we're going to waste, because I really like those subtle tones and we'd lose all of that. So it's important not to keep going over it, otherwise you'd mix the paint too much. Now of course you can also do this with a brush, so I will show you that now. So I've just got a basic size 10 flat brush. Now it's brand new, so it's got a little bit of the glue in it that they use to keep these bristles together. This is not an expensive brush. It's just a good brush that you can use to get background in. Okay, just getting all of the glue out. I think I might put it in some water as well. I'm used to using my beautiful filbert brushes. Okay, so I've popped it in the water as well to loosen it up a bit. And I'm actually going to grab some of that skin tone that I had on another palette. So I'm going to grab some white and some skin tone like that. See how I've grabbed it and I've pulled it towards me the same way that I've used the palette knife. And now I'm dragging it across like that. Now this is going to suffice here because I'm going to have other things happening down there. Now while I've got the brush, I may as well take this opportunity just to paint around the edge of the canvas. Just finishes it off nicely. So, and notice because it is a stretched canvas that I'm using, it can just hang directly on the wall. There we go. Just a nice basic rough background painted in. So now what's happening down here is I'm going to paint in the suggestion of these nice aqua flower boxes down here. Might just bring that down a little bit more actually. See how I'm just going like that now, just normal brush strokes. All of this is going to be covered in these beautiful flowers, but it's important to sort of bring your background in further than what you expect, so that in the very end, just in case there's not any little bits of white canvas showing. Okay, so now it's time to mix up a bit of an aqua blue colour. Very easy to do. Just grab some more white from another palette. Oh, that nearly hit the deck. Okay, so I'm going to grab some white. Now again, notice how I grab my palette knife and I bring the paint away. I splice it and bring it across. And now I'm going to do the opposite. I'm grabbing a little bit of my phthalo green and putting it in there, and then I'm going backwards and forwards like that to squish it down. Now I don't really want that bright aqua colour. I just want to tone it down a little bit, so I'm just going to add a very tiny bit of phthalo blue into there, like that. And I'd like some more white, so grabbing the white and bringing it across. There we go. Now I don't want to mix that in completely, because when you look at these planter boxes, see they sort of have the look of a picket fence, and then behind there is the shadow, so we want to get the shadow in too. So I'm just going to get a slightly darker shade of that by dragging some of that aside, and little tiny bits at a time. Like I was saying before, when you're mixing colours, it's better to just tone it small amounts at a time. Now I don't mean get out small bits of paint at a time, because there's nothing more frustrating than mixing up the perfect colour and not having enough to put onto your canvas, because you've spent so much time mixing it, it's almost dry on your palette. So make sure that you've got out your base colour. In this case it was white, okay? You've got enough white that you're going to then tone down, and you're still going to have enough paint to put on the canvas. Just putting a little bit more phthalo blue into that and a little bit more phthalo green like that, and I don't want to mix them in completely. There. Okay, I think this will do nicely. Okay, so now I'm just going to go back to my flat brush, giving it a bit of a rinse. It's still got a bit of the skin tone on there, but I don't care. Now I'm picking up some of the lighter tone, and I'm just brushing that way. See? I don't have to have really completely straight lines here, but it is important to have the brush strokes going vertically at this stage. Now I'm using some of the darker tone as well. Instead of going like that, I'm turning my brush over and I'm going like that. What I want here is just a suggestion of what I'm seeing there. So I'm just going to bring this out a little bit so I can get to the bottom here. I'm actually now just going to drag my brush through the white like that, see here? And I'm going to turning my wrist around now to sort of get the suggestion of these little rounded tops here. We're not going for perfection today, because let's face it, I wasn't inspired to paint this because of that little picket fence, that little aqua picket fence planter box. I was inspired because of these flowers, and you should smell the fragrance. They are divine. So see how I'm just coming back here and just grabbing bits of the white sort of dragged through my original colour there. And if you make your brush strokes fast, it gives you less time for mistakes. Look at this. If I did this really slow like this and my hand was shaking a little bit like that, I'm going to get the shaky sort of look, right? Which is actually going to come in handy when I'm doing the flowers. But if I do this quickly, like that, I don't have time to get, if I'm going like this and I do this quickly, see I'm shaking my hand, I don't get time to sort of get those other movements in there. I hope that makes sense. Just helping out people today who may not think that they can paint because they may have hand issues, dexterity issues. I've got a bit of one myself at the moment, because when we're up in North Queensland filming our Art Class Online episodes up there, I tripped over the boulders up there on Magnetic Island and I've broken my finger. So
that's because you were getting too keen about getting out on the rocks right onto the water. You artists do get carried away.
Right, so now I'm just getting a little bit see how I've combined, just using my brush, a little bit of the phthalo green and the phthalo blue in here. And I'm going backwards and forwards like that to get a bit of a straight edge. So now I'm just going to go like that in between my little fence posts, get some more paint. And I think that's where I'm going to leave my fence today. I'll just touch up a little bit here. But I'm really going to cover most of this fence post with these beautiful flowers, so I'm not too concerned about that. So now it's time for a cup of tea, a little bit of a break while this background dries. And as I always say, I'm painting this in one go to show you all of the steps, but you could paint that background that we started with and then just leave it and then come back to it later in a day or two, in an hour or two. Then paint in the little fence, which I've just done, right? Then leave it for a day or two. There's no race here. You don't have to rush through this. You have to enjoy this. Enjoy the process. Time to move on. So I want to get in some of this beautiful green foliage, these leaves here. So I've got my phthalo green out, which I've just been using. I'm going to grab that across here like that, grab some yellow and just make a basic green. Now notice how I'm sort of mixing it over the top of the phthalo green and phthalo blue that I was using before. This is where, see how bright that is? It's way too bright, right? So this is where the skin tone comes into it. So I'm just going to grab some of that skin tone and pop it in there like that. Now see how that's toned it down instantly and taken what I call the lolliness out of it. It's still very bright green. This is why it's so great just to have the subject right here in front of me to show you. So now I'm going to grab some more yellow and go here. Notice how I didn't put it into that mix? We're starting to get somewhere now, and I'll put a little bit more skin tone in. Now, this is going to be a better tone for some of this, but not for all of it, see? Green is really one of the hardest colours to mix, and that is why I generally have got lots of tubes of green, because I'm impatient. Yes, I can mix that colour, but even you guys at home, it's probably easier for you to have lots of different greens in tubes. But I am trying to keep things simple today, sticking to just a few colours. So now with what's on here, I'm going to put into half of my original mix. Now remembering that my original mix was phthalo green, yellow, and it did have a little bit of phthalo blue sort of left over underneath there, and of course the skin tone. All right, what we need now is to change the tone to a warmer tone. It's too cool, see, way too cool. This is where my ultramarine blue, my warm blue, comes into it. So I'm going to grab a little bit of that and I'm putting it into this mix over here. And I'm going to grab a little bit more of the skin tone. So like I was saying before, you've just got to add little bits at a time until you get the desired colour. We're starting to get closer, but I need some more ultramarine blue in here. Now that's probably not a bad colour for some of these darker bits. I'll just add some more skin tone in. Ultramarine and skin tone. It's just a gradual thing. All right, that's starting to give me the darker tones, and I've also got to remember that acrylic paint dries darker. Now there's one thing missing in here, and that is a little bit of red. Yes, red in the green is going to bring us to the tone that we want. So I'm grabbing a little bit of my cadmium scarlet, which is my warm red that I was using earlier, and I'm just going to put it aside there, just a tiny bit, right? And what I've got left on here is what I commonly refer to as an ant speck. And little bits at a time again, so a little bit more, because it's easy to put too much red into green and then it becomes brown. Now we're getting there. That's better. I'll just grab some more of my warm red, which is my cadmium scarlet. Little bits at a time. We're getting quite a bit of paint here, but that's okay because I'll be using all of this. Oh, I'm really liking this now. We're starting to really get there. Now I want a lighter version of that, so I'm going to grab some yellow and pop it in the middle here. Like that. Pretty happy with that. I can see those tones there. And what I've got left on here, I'm going to just put into what's remaining of my skin tone. There's a little bit of this background colour that I was using for my little picket fence planter box before, but that's okay. That's giving me some of the lighter tones that I can see through there. See here? Look at that. Perfect. All right. Time to get started here. Now, I want you to observe the way that this grows, okay? So there's the smaller leaves up the top, and they get longer and more gnarly as they progress. Look at these ones. They're not nice, pretty, even leaves. They're quite gnarly, right? Which works perfectly for us today because we want to be able to do paintings that everybody can do. You don't want to have picture perfect little leaves like this jade bush over here. Look at that. If we were painting the jade bush, we'd have to do picture perfect little leaves like that. But this is the perfect plant to paint for our purposes. So smaller up the top, and as you can see, because that's where the flowers come out, and they come out in a bunch like that. Now I'm going to start by just getting in some rough background. So I'm picking up with my palette knife a bit of the dark colour and the middle colour there like that, and I just want to put in, see how I'm going around like that? See, I'm twisting my wrist. So again, if I've got a shaky hand, it doesn't matter. So my hand's shaking, look, like that. It doesn't matter because, as I said, these are quite gnarly, these leaves, right? So it suits the way we're painting today. So I've grabbed some more of my dark and my middle colour. I haven't used these ones yet. And I'm going to pop some, they sort of come down around like that. So I'm just going to pop some leaves over here like this. And I'm not doing perfect one on that side, one on that side. Again, what we're doing is a suggestion. Okay, so this has inspired us. We want to get something on here. We want to get the essence of this on here. We don't want to do picture perfect everything here, because if we wanted that, we'd just take a photo, right? We want to enjoy the process. For me particularly, this is so fulfilling because I have nurtured these flowers. I planted them when they were that big. I've been fertilizing them, I've been watering them, I've been watching them grow, I've been delighting in these little tiny buds that come out and wondering what color they're going to be. So now I get to get all of that onto a canvas and I'm delighted. So back to my dark color and my middle color. And see, I'm just getting a suggestion of leaves in here. It may look like a hot mess at the moment, but it will come together. So I'm actually looking at this one here now and just going, okay, let's just have a few little leaves at the top there, scraping up my paint. And then as we're coming down, we're making them a little bit bigger. I'm hardly holding this, and the looseness is your friend. The looseness, and again, if you haven't got that much dexterity in your hand, is going to be your friend here, because you're going to be able to create a really nice artistic impression of this. Okay, I am going to continue with this, down like this. See how I'm just there, 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 there. I actually need to mix up some more paint, which is annoying, but it has to be done. So let's do this again. So some phthalo green, some yellow, some ultramarine blue, a little bit of the red. Look at this. This is actually giving you a good idea on how all of this is going to work. And I need some skin tone, which I have got no more on any palette, so I'm just going to squeeze a little bit out. So you can see the benefit of having skin tone rather than having to mix it up all the time. So grabbing some skin tone, there you go. Let's see if I've got these ratios right here.
Well, you did use that computer measuring system called a brain.
Almost. I need to get some more red in there, which is my cadmium scarlet, which is my warm red. A little bit more. Easy does it, little bits at a time here. And I'm going to grab a little bit more of my ultramarine blue, which is my warm blue. I'm going to take some of that aside and add some yellow in to lighten it down. And I'm going to grab a little bit of my skin tone as well to lighten it down. There we go. Right, so again, look at this, big chunk of paint. That's what you want, a nice big chunk of paint. Don't be too scared to do this. There's no mistakes here. See what I mean about how this fence, this little picket fence planter box is going to be mainly covered anyway. I'm going to pretend that I've got a stem. I'm going for this lighter colour now because the stem is a lighter sort of colour. Grabbing a bit of that and that, and I'm just doing a suggestion of a stem coming down like that. Again, look at that. It's not a perfect stem. I don't care because I'm doing leaves off this like that. It's sort of coming down like that's coming down, and then it's coming back up. They really have been amazing to watch grow, these flowers. So now I've gone down and up like that. Just get a little bit more in here. Some coming like that. I might have another little one just peeking here. I don't want to have them all at the same height here. Just going to grab some of this lighter shade now and just do a suggestion of highlights here and there. I'm using some of the yellow and the light. So as I've said in previous videos, preparation's the key here. If I didn't have all of those tones of green mixed up, I wouldn't be able to just have fun with it and just get that paint on the canvas now. So I get frustrated because I just want to start painting, but preparation is the key, and it's so important to just gradually mix your colours until you get what you want, and then you can go for it like I am now. So you can see I'm just doing a few little layers upon layers here. See, just a few little highlights. I'd like to get some more longer leaves down the bottom here, so I'm just going to grab a big chunk of that and just do some nice big long ones disappearing off. There we go. All right, time for another break. Got to let that dry for a little bit, and we'll come back and we will do the star of the show, the flowers. Okay, so I'm so inspired today. While I'm waiting for the other one to dry, I've started another canvas, and I also thought it's a good opportunity for me to show you that if you didn't want to use a palette knife to paint these leaves in, you can use a brush. Now I'm using a chisel brush, which, as you can see, is shaped a little bit like a chisel. I'm just dragging it through the paint like that. So I still do have a nice big chunk on there, and again, I'm not holding on to it firmly. See how I'm not going like that? I'm holding it sort of almost parallel to the canvas, and I'm allowing it basically to do the same thing. See, just coming out like that. Important to keep going back and getting more paint. Now I haven't put the gel medium into the leaves because I want these to stand out, and we use the impasto gel medium to make the paint thicker and to give it a bit of a shine and texture and all that sort of stuff. So I want the flowers to be the star of the show here. So just getting some more of this out. See, I've done this a little bit even more abstract. I'm going to do a line down here of a stem, have some leaves coming towards me like that. So see, I'm sort of using this brush like a palette knife. I'm just throwing it on there. Now the reason why I haven't got a drawing of this before I start and sort of go, okay, we've got a branch going that way, we've got another one going that way, another one, because I like the spontaneity of painting. And when I'm teaching my students in the studio, this is exactly the same way that we approach paintings. And as I said earlier, I've been teaching classes for over 27 years, and it's been wonderful to watch the progress of each student go through. And my philosophy is that you learn a little bit with every painting that you do. So I like to make my classes informal, but you're still learning everything that you need to learn. You need to learn about colour, balance, rhythm, tonal values, perspective, painting techniques. And so with every painting that my students do in the studio here, and hopefully you at home as well, you will take some of the skills you've learnt from that painting into the next painting. And trust me, I've just watched this over the years, and it's a wonderful thing to watch people develop in their art. And in fact, I will show you and feature some of my students very soon on the website. Back to here, see how I'm just getting these, just getting some nice rough leaves in here like that with the brush. Now, if you don't have a chisel brush, and you've just got a flat brush like I was using earlier, I'm just loading it up a little bit differently so that I've got more of a straight edge there, and going like that with it. It's not giving me the same effect. You can see that, and this is a cheaper brush as well, it's just not giving me what I had using that chisel brush. See how quickly I got that in, or even with the palette knife. So my recommendation is to use a palette knife or a chisel brush or a filbert even, but probably not one of these. All right, I'm going to go back to the chisel brush just quickly to get that paint off there. I'll have some up here. See, it's just, as I say all of the time, like a broken record, we're painting nature. And nature isn't a planned event. Look at this, it's very spontaneous. It's very little bit of, it depends on where the plants are getting the sun. I've got lots of plants growing in pots up on my veranda as well, and they're all searching for the sun. All their little flowers are reaching out to the sun. So it's interesting how that all works. It's not a perfect plan, which is great for us because we can just get the impression of it. Obviously, this wouldn't look right if I just went like that all over it. I want to capture how, this is what you call rhythm in a painting. So see, your eye follows it around like that. So when you're looking at a painting, you want the rhythm to go in. You want the balance and the rhythm and the flow to happen so that you get taken into the artwork and you get to explore the artwork. I'm just going to use up the rest of the paint that I've got here because I can't wait to paint the flowers on the other painting. Here we go. So painting in acrylics here today. That's going to require some more dark greens and maybe some light greens, etc. I may even come over the top of this with my oil paints. I just had to get another painting done of this beauty. Sometimes as artists we start off with a little canvas and then we regret it because we should have gone for a bigger canvas in the first place. And this is definitely bigger than the other one.
Steps there.
Priscilla,
Just keeping guard.
the studio cat. Yes, she likes to be involved in all of the painting, don't you, Priscilla? Okay, it's back to the flowers now. Now on my palette here, I have got some white, some alizarin crimson, which is a cool red, and my ultramarine blue, which is a warm blue. And this is the gel medium that I'm going to use to give the paint some nice impasto and gloss. So it's this heavy gel gloss impasto gel medium. Right, now to make the perfect purple, one must grab warm blue and a tiny bit of red to start with. Now this is working on the same principle that I had before about just little bits at a time here, easy does it. Now I'm going to add some white into that. And some gel medium, about 20% gel medium. Now that's one shade of purple, that's a very bluey purple. So I'm going to add some more red into half of that now. See how the alizarin crimson really packs a punch here. You don't need a lot. So I'm now going to add all of that into there. So we're starting to get there. See how you can see those tones there in that purple? And also remembering that the paint dries darker. So I've got to allow for that. Now I'd like a slightly darker version of this. So I'm going to grab a small amount of the ultramarine blue in there, like that. And that is going to give me these little shadows that are falling underneath there. And I'm also going to require a lighter version. Just going to scrape that off, grab some more white and some of that original purple that I mixed over there. So now I've got my 3 versions of purple, right? This one is alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue, but with more alizarin crimson and white, of course. This one is alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue with more blue, and this one is the original mix just with some more white in. So you'll see on the screen, to make it easier for you, I've put how much percentage of warm blue, your ultramarine blue, and how much percentage of cool red, your alizarin crimson, and your white. Make it a little bit easier for you. Now this is just the tones of one of these beautiful flowers that I've got here today. I've also got these beautiful pink ones that have ended up with some of my aqua background on somehow. So these rich pink ones and these lighter pink ones as well. So I'm just going to grab another palette here. Like I say, as much as I'm desperate to get that colour on the canvas, preparation is the key. This is when artists must have patience. I'm now going to grab some of the white off this palette and put it here, and a little bit of the alizarin crimson and some of my medium. So now I'm going to add, this is about a 50-50 mix of alizarin crimson and white here, and about 20% gel medium going in there. Notice how there's single flowers and double flowers. It's a real mix in here. So see this here? This is sort of like the pink that I'm after. So I'm going to do a lighter version of it as well by splicing that white in half, like that. Just for some highlights, and putting a little bit more of the gel medium in. Just put a little bit more of that in. Okay, so we've got 2 shades of our flowers here, right? There are these beautiful sort of creamy ones here as well, and we've got the darker purple, and we've also got the lighter pink. It looks like I've got some yellow ones coming out here too. So that's not quite the same pink as what I've mixed up here, but you can get that pink if you happen to have magenta at home, which is a beautiful pink that has got just a little bit of purple in it. Look at that. Just opening that new tube of it, and I'll put a little bit there to show you the difference. I'm grabbing some medium and I'm grabbing some white. So I'm just going to put the medium and the white and the magenta together. Very hard to mix on these little palettes. You don't have to use all of these different palettes like I am today. It was just convenient for me for the sake of demonstrating. Now see the difference in the colours, and see how now we've got the exact match. And this comes back to, again, why artists like to have specific colours in lots of different tubes, because you just can't mix that colour, not with the pigments that are given in these standard colours. So that is what we call an artist colour. So it's just the next level up of the paints that we're using. All right, now while I've got this palette knife here, which is similar sort of shape to this one, right? In fact, I might just use this one just to make things. So I've gone back to the original palette knife that I was using, and I'm going to grab some of my new pink that I've just mixed up like that. And this is the fun bit. So I'm just looking at this little one down here, and I'm going to pop it in here. So I'm just going to go like that, like that, like that, like that. It's basically just a mass of colour, right? So just getting some more on the edge of my palette knife, painting knife like that, and just doing little, again, notice it's all in the twist of the wrist here. Just bring that out. When you look carefully at these flowers, they're like little bunches that are growing tightly, like layer upon layer on top of each other. So that's why I'm getting the layer upon layer of paint here, like this. And again, I'm sort of getting a little bit of a rhythm here. See, it's not, they don't just go in any kind of straightness. They sort of come in and out. So you've got the rhythm flowing through those flowers. And now I need to lighten that, so I'm going to grab some of my white and pop it in there, and I'm grabbing a little bit more of my gel medium. Yes, it's got a bit of alizarin crimson in it, but that's okay. There we go. So now I've got that lighter version of that colour while it's still wet. Now it's important to do this process while that is still wet, because you want to be able to mix the colour on the canvas. This just gives you that extra special effect, so that some of the colours are sort of blending into each other and some of them aren't. And see how I'm going like this. I'm not going like that. I've got my palette knife or painting knife parallel to the canvas like that. And I'm just doing little movements like that with it. There we go. One completed flower. Now I'm going to use this other pink that I had here before, and I'm going to do another one over here. So I don't want to have both of the pinks right exactly next to each other. I'm going to do one here. So starting off with the darker pink, again, just little dabs like this. Notice I haven't joined all of that together, because when you look at this, see, this purple one's a classic example. There's one down here and then there's some around here. So they're not, all of them are mass on the stem. And now some of the lighter pink on top. A little bit more. Make that one just coming down a bit longer. Okay, now it's time for my purple ones. And this time I'm going to use a brush. So this is where my number 4 round brush comes in. I'm starting off with the darker purple like that. I'm scooping it up, and some of the medium coloured purple like that. And I'm going to pop this one in. I think I'll have him coming in here. So now I'm doing little dots. So the harder I press down on the brush, like that, the bigger the dot. The lighter I press, the smaller the dot or the impression that goes on there, see? So this is just a combination of scooping the colours like that. I've got the dark and the medium. I'm not using the light one yet, see, like that? And just doing a combination of little light. Now I'm doing little light strokes up the top there because they get smaller up the top. Look at that. See that little one there? And then as they come down, they get bigger. So I'm pressing down harder on my brush. Again, I think this is a great painting to do if you haven't got as much dexterity in your hands as what you'd like to. I actually cut my thumb last year when we were packaging up a painting, and I had to use these 2 fingers like this. I couldn't use my thumb. So trust me, I've been there with, luckily I'm right-handed, not left-handed. All right, so just continuing along here. The joys of painting outdoors. The sun comes and highlights your painting 1 minute, and then the threat of rain comes the next. But I wouldn't swap it because it's so wonderful to paint outdoors like this. I'm going to have another one close to it. See how there's a little fella there close to this? So I'm going to have another one here, like that. And now, why is this not standing out as much as those? Because it hasn't got the highlights. So time for the highlights. Now, notice how I'm going quite parallel to the canvas now, because if I went like this, I'm going to get some sort of effect, but I'm not getting the nice big chunky bits of paint that I get if I take it sideways. I'm sort of just dabbing it on there like that. Whereas if I go like that, I'm dabbing it on, but I'm taking off some of the paint underneath. See how I'm not getting that effect? Grab some more paint. So again, dabbing, but if I go like that, I get more paint. Oh, our lavender stocks are coming to life. And I think we need another purple one, maybe here. So repeating the process. This one is coming forward towards me like this, so it's going to be smaller down here and thicker up there. Like these ones. See this one? It's coming down towards me. Almost out of paint again. I hate that. Some lighter ones on top. All right, I think we might get some of these single ones in now. So if I go back to my pink palette over here, I'm going to pop this one in the water, and this time I'm going to combine a little bit of my magenta with some of my alizarin crimson. Let's see what colour we get now. So I'm going to combine those two together like that, and I'm going to take some of that aside and put it over into this mix, which was just my alizarin crimson and white, and that's giving me sort of the darker edge bits. And I would like a lighter version as well, so I've got some white left over here, so just scraping all of that in there now. Grab some gel medium, again about 20%. I just put a plonk of gel medium out on my palette, and then I can just use it at will. And some more white. So you can see a pattern emerging here, that you sort of have your darker shade, your medium shade, and then your lighter highlighting shade. Now these ones aren't as chunky as the other ones, so I'm going to be a little bit more careful with how I do this. So I'm grabbing on the tip of my palette knife, one here, like this, and I'm being a little bit more careful. I'm going around and bringing each one into a center like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, run out of paint, get some more. Oh, well, I was going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but then I made up a rhyme. There we go. Oh, there's only 4 there. Look at that. there is 4 little petals on each flower. So there you go. Observation is king here. 1, 2, 3, 4. They don't have to be perfect. Got a bit of white in there, but that's all right. So with these, I've just started with just my dark colour first. Now I'm going to go to the medium colour, and whoa, that was a big chunk, wasn't it? And just do a few little dabs here and there over the top. And now my really light colour is in the middle. So just grabbing some of the light colour and putting it in the middle of each flower, which is a very hard thing to do while this is so wet. So I would now recommend that you could do that part when these petals are dry. All right, now I need something happening through here. So I'm going to do another one of those coming up through there. Actually, it's going to be coming out here. So I'm going to have smaller down here. See how that works if you're using a brush. So if I went to just a little round brush here and I scooped up the paint again like that, and I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I then have to come back and just fill these out a little bit because they're a little bit skinny, see? You can still use this brush, but I prefer to use the palette knife because I am a little impatient and I like to get it on there. Alright, so we've used palette knife, palette knife, brush, brush, brush. Yep, no, I'm on team palette knife or team painting knife. Just getting a little bit of the medium colour now to highlight. And if you're using a brush, you can use the medium colour then just to create that little bit more roundness on each petal like that. Here comes the sun again. Just doesn't know what it's doing today, this weather. Now I'm going for this lighter shade again, which I've sort of ran out of, sort of getting a bit murky. I'm just grabbing some more white. So the lighter shade and popping a little bit into the centre of each one there. Now I'm going to put some of these nice delicate little pale pink ones in. I'm swapping palettes. I'm going to grab a little bit of the, I know that's the gel medium, it's got some pink in it, that's okay. I'm grabbing some white and dragging it across, like that. And I've got a little bit of a pale pink happening already. Now I'm going to grab a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of my alizarin crimson into there. We saw before what a strong colour it is. And a tiny, tiny bit of my cadmium scarlet in there too. More white. And more gel medium. And then I want a lighter version, so just doing that little bit there. So grabbing the pink, and I'm going to pop one coming out of here like that, just a little one. Oh, that is just a big chunk of paint that I put on there, and now I'm sort of spreading it out a little bit because I'm going back to these double lavender stocks now. And some of the lighter colour on top. And I'll have another one sort of coming in here too. And highlights on top. I think I might have one disappearing off here too. You don't want to just centre everything in the centre here. You've got to have some coming off the canvas as well. So that might be just coming in from the corner here. I think I'm going to put another pink one down in here too, and I've got all of this nice magenta pink made up, sort of going back to that pink. I'm just going to pop that, a little suggestion of it through here like that, and another bit sort of in here. Sort of behind that one. Right, now I need for that to have, if you have a look in these little centres of these flowers here, see how there's little bits of green in there? So I'm going to go back to mixing up a little bit of green here. So I'm using, I've got a little bit of ultramarine blue, that'll do, here, and some yellow. Just to give me a bit of a green centre. And there's also, see these little ones at the top that haven't come out yet? So I'm going to pop some in here like that. And then just a few in the centre like that. This then makes these make a whole lot more sense. Just dab, 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 a few at the top. Now this one's coming towards me, so it's got a few coming out like that. And I'm going to have a lighter colour as well, so I'm using a bit of that light pink. Now, like that, and just getting some of the lighter shade there on the edge, on the ends. Going back to my green I just made up here. Of course you can't see the green in the middle of all of them, but it does sort of stand out a little bit here and there. And it's a much lighter green than the leaves. Green and purple, what a great contrast. And now into the pink one. This actually probably works better while these are wet to do these little dabs. And there's some in the middle of these little ones here too. So the green I've just mixed up using some ultramarine blue, which is your warm blue, and your yellow. And up here, I want to have a suggestion like this one here, where they haven't come out yet. So I'm going to use some of that green and some of the lighter green, like that. And just do some little dabs here. And maybe over here too. Now, you can leave it like that. That's perfectly fine. I'm just going to grab a little bit more of my ultramarine blue and pop it into here. So this is just ultramarine blue and yellow. And it's just giving me a nice deep green that I'm just going to put in here and there like this. This needs to be a little bit darker. Just to create a little bit more shadow. Now that the sun's come out, the light has changed. It's creating more shadow, so sometimes you've got to work with this. Just little bits more of shadow in here and there. Oh, I just can't get this dark enough. Okay. Lots and lots and lots of ultramarine blue here. And not much yellow at all. I would say 90% ultramarine blue. That's better. Now we're cooking. And see how that's providing a little bit more interest for me? It's getting that nice contrast of creating some of this shadow that you can really see now on these leaves. And the other thing I would like to do is just get, just with what's on my brush, into the yellow there too. To create a nice lighter green, I'll put a little bit of white into there too. Just to do a suggestion, see like that, of the stems. You can see the stems there. Do a bit of a stem coming through here. I've already done that one. Just a bit of a one coming here. This fellow that's here. The stem on this is actually darker, these ones. So I'll go back to my dark green here and get something there through there that sort of joins them up a little bit. And a few little bits coming off. See where there have been flowers on there, how they then just become these long, sort of sticky out stem-like things. Just need some more ultramarine blue. Get one happening through here. See how I'm just doing sort of broken lines through there? That can be coming down like that with some of these fellas sort of sticking out. this one here needs not as dark a stem. Just a little bit of broken lines. Some shadow touches that create the most interest in your painting, because as I said before, you could leave it the way that it was, but I'm just taking it that little step further and getting a little bit of shadow here and there in amongst the leaves. That's almost like straight ultramarine blue there that I'm using here and there too. Okay, now I think rain really is threatening. We had that sunshine a few seconds ago.
It definitely is.
So I think I'm going to wrap this up.
Fantastic. So
I hope you've enjoyed me bringing the joy of my garden to you today in the form, I'm pretty sure they're called stock lavenders. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, they smell amazing. So there we have a beautiful painting of spring flowers. Another one for me to tick off my bucket list. I've grown them and now I've captured them on canvas, and the sun's come out just at the right time to highlight that. So until next time, happy creating.